crap, dude. Vince went a 950. 970 and a 950.
Alright guys, well this video might be a little out of place and overdue, but I wanted to do like a cost breakdown of the T.I.M, the Mustang build. So if you're not familiar with the build, I called it T.I.M because it's the Trust Issues Mustang, because when we got the car, it had a lot of problems with it, electrical problems, fuel line issues, all kinds of stuff with it. So it originally went to Hunter's shop, and then he didn't have the time at the time to do all of the work that was needed to get the car tunable, we'll say that. It would have been unsafe to tune it the way that it was, and it wouldn't have performed very well because the exhaust was all smashed, the wastegates were smashed, the downpipes were smashed. So it wouldn't have performed very well either way. So when I saw that Hunter had the car, I offered to do the rebuild on the car. So I kind of made a deal with the owner that I would do the rebuild over the winter as long as he let me use the car for videos and content over the winter at the time. My truck was not needing very much work over that winter. So I said, hey, let's make a deal. You pay for the parts. I won't charge any labor. I'll get video content from the car throughout the winter, do the build, and then send it back to Hunter and he can tune it. So it was kind of a win-win for all of us. I got to work on the car and get some videos. Vince got his car rebuilt for the cost of parts, and Hunter was able to tune it. So I'll just get the cost out of the way right away. The whole cost of the rebuild for the car was $2,500. So that was including electrical, fuel lines, drive shaft yokes, suspension. We did subframe connectors, torque box reinforcement, rebuilt the motor mounts, whole turbo kit, everything. It was $2,500 out the door. So I kind of worked that out with him in the beginning, like what he was gonna be able to afford for parts. He said $2,500, so I gave it back to him for $2,500. I'm just gonna go down the list. So the fuel line, I estimated the cost at around $200, and Hunter actually donated all the fuel line. So Hunter donated a couple things for it. He donated the fuel line and some fittings. He donated one of the wastegates. We ended up buying one wastegate, and then he donated the other wastegate. I was able to reuse some of the old fuel fittings on it. So I put a cost of $20 for some fuel fittings that I bought. The catch can and hose and fittings, there was the eBay kit. It was $55.29. The turbo hot side, I estimated it at around $380 and it came to $382. So I got all that stuff, all the stainless from Ace Race Parts. Turbo cold side, I ended up buying just a 3-inch piping kit. So that comes with all the bends and the piping and extra fitting. So it ended up with some extra tubing left over from that one. That one was $75. Turbo oil drains, that was $59. And then another $28 for some turbo drain fittings like the AN bungs and stuff like that. I already mentioned the wastegates. Those are from HunterTune.com. We paid $126 for one of the wastegates, and then Hunter donated the other one. Ended up getting a new set of exhaust gaskets and bolts. The exhaust gaskets that were on it were the composite ones, and they were leaking really bad, so we got new gaskets and bolts. That was $37. BR7EF plugs. That was $26.96. We kept the spark plug wires and the coil pack harness. I had a spare coil pack harness that I was able to use. The coil pack harness we had to replace because it was cut up and then all the wires were reconnected with butt connectors. So I had a spare one that I was able to throw in the car. Wiring and electrical, I estimated it at around $200 and it ended up being $275. So that was some electrical plugs, breaker, wire bulkheads, and all that stuff. The drive shaft was also too short. So I estimated $450 for the drive shaft, and it ended up costing $327. So that was from Machine Services in Green Bay. So the drive shaft was too short, ended up having to lengthen it, and it also had the wrong slip yoke on it. So it needed a counterbore yoke. It had a fully splined yoke because the TH400 output shaft was the O-ring shaft, and it had a fully splined slip yoke. So it ended up making the drive shaft shorter than it needed to be and not very much spline engagement. So also did new 1350 U-joints, a new front yoke. That was $47.50 and $195 for the counterbore yoke, which was a strange front yoke. I believe it was a strange front yoke. So we did strange front and rear yokes. The rear 8/8 yoke was $163. The slip yoke was $195. We put a drive shaft safety loop on it. That was a universal kit from eBay for $30. Put a new thermostat in it for $28. We did the subframe connectors and torque boxes. That was $147 and $101 for the subframe connectors and torque boxes. Then I added some other stuff on for welding supplies. It was $50 for like gas and stuff like that. $10 for paint, $23 for engine mounts. Use a universal set of LS engine mounts. and then just some scrap steel and made new mounts. The K-member in the car had the mounting pads already cut out of it because when the car came in, it originally had a motor plate on it. So we decided to get rid of the motor plate and go to mounts, and did not do a tubular K-member because, like I said, the budget was only $2,500. So there was a lot of people that were like kind of pissed off about why we didn't do a tubular K-member. But like I said, his budget was $2,500 and that wasn't in the budget. So I added another $23 for missing parts from the accessory drive. There was like some spacers that had to be made, and I can't remember exactly what I all had to add there, but that was $23 to get that accessory drive fit back up. We basically took the motor plate out and went it back to a regular accessory drive. Turbo drains with gaskets, that was some more AN fittings for the bottoms of the drains. The firewall grommet was $25. That was a pretty nice grommet. Big grommet with like a 5/8 hole in the middle, but it was really stretchy, so I was able to get the whole Terminator X harness to go through that really stretchy grommet, and it actually worked out pretty good. Brake line relocate. The factory brake line goes through the drive shaft tunnel, and I wanted to get the brake line out of the drive shaft tunnel in case you had a drive shaft issue and it would cut the brake line. So part of it was moving that, and then part of it was also my mistake, and I nicked the brake line in the rear, the crossover line. I didn't charge any extra for that because that was my fault, but we redid all the brake lines on the car, basically, like from the fitting up in the tire well all the way to the back has all new brake lines. And then fluids, oil, trans fluid, and coolant. The transmission, we never really dumped all the fluid out, so it didn't need much, but I did top it off just and checked it, made sure that was good. Oil and coolant, put $82 down for that. Lower radiator hose was $46, ended up finding like a Gates hose that fit pretty good. And $16 for a U-joint bolt. So all that stuff came to pretty much right at $2,500. We also went with the Sloppy Mechanics plug-and-play harness for the alternator and flex fuel and all that stuff. And Matt Apple actually sent that, donated that. So thanks, Matt. So definitely go check out those guys that helped build the car, donate some parts. SloppyMechanics.com and HunterTune.com. And we did a lot on the car. We did the wiring, the brake lines, new mounts, turbo kit, hot side, cold side, subframe connectors, torque boxes, rear suspension, all kinds of stuff. Did a lot to the car. Only cost $2,500. The car had never been to the track, from my understanding, before that, and we were able to get the car to go 950 at like 141. So he drove the hell out of that car too. Honestly, left here and he started ripping on it, and we took it to the dyno. Hunter dyno tuned it up to like, I want to say it was like 640. It said 700 in the video, but we found that the dyno was a little bit off that day. So it was probably around 640, 650. But he did turn it up. That was on like 10 pounds, 10 or 11 pounds. And then he did turn it up, I think, to like 25 or 26 pounds at the track. So it had twin GT3582s on it, like the eBay GT35s. And he turned it up to like 25, 26 pounds. And it was a Gen 3 bottom end, a Gen 3 5.3. And it went 950. He did sell the car now. He doesn't own it anymore, so this is kind of like a final Tim video update, because we probably won't see the car on the channel anymore because he sold it. It was fun to build, a little bit challenging. We were able to get it to go pretty fast, and he had a lot of success with the car. So thanks for watching. I know a lot of you guys enjoyed that car. I had fun building it. It was kind of a good challenge, I think, for myself, because that was like, I'm not very confident, I guess, with doing work for other people a lot of the time. So that was kind of a big leap for me to be able to take on a large project that was for another person, and it actually worked out pretty well. So I think that was a big step for me personally. But now we got other stuff to get back to. So I'm going to get back to working on this thing pretty soon. Just been kind of taking a little time off, resetting my brain, spending some time with family, and we'll get back to it pretty soon.